Hi everyone, my name is Emily and I'm a youth services librarian at the Rock Island Public Library. And today I have two books for you that are both available through our Comics Plus app. This app is still pretty new and they have a lot of titles that aren't available on any of our other apps. So this first one is Tokyo Babylon. And this series was originally published many years ago. It was, I think, the first series by the creative team Clamp, but this is a group of 4 women who started making comics back in the 80s, and this series, I think it came out in 1990. So this is actually a reissue of that. And the artwork, I mean, the style of the time looks different than a lot of manga does today. But in this book, it is a supernatural series about the main character here. This is Subaru Sumeragi, and he is the 13th head of his family. His clan specifically deals in work with spirits, and so his actual job title is Onmyouji, and he is 17. He has a twin sister named Hokuto, and they are friends, pretty close friends really, with this veterinarian whose name is Seishiro Sakurazuka. I'm getting their names from the back, by the way. I'm not remembering all of these perfectly. But the idea here is some unquiet spirits linger in different parts of a city as big as Tokyo. You can understand, you can imagine. And as an Onmyouji, our hero, Subaru, is trying to help these spirits either pass on to the next life or stop whatever sort of potentially violent haunting they're doing. And in some cases, it's not even like a place exactly that's haunted. I think in one of the first chapters, it's actually a suit. It's like a suit of clothing that is being haunted by these terrible energies and cause the person wearing them to become very, very sort of erratic and violent, potentially. Now, Seishiro, the veterinarian who is friends with these 2 twins, he's actually from a rival family. Traditionally, this family has done kind of different magic work, and he talks about the fact, pretty early in the book, humans are and always have been the scariest thing out there. There are sprites called Tsukumogami that take up residence in tools and objects. These days, though, curses of human hatred are so powerful that they've displaced the Tsukumogami. And, I mean, Hokuto kind of chimes in, exactly, yokai and monsters can't hold a candle to the power of human selfishness. Environmental devastation, unrest in Eastern Europe. In front of the young women of Japan, they're nothing but mere lullabies. And something I will say, though it's mostly played up for comedy in this first volume, something famous about these authors is the fact that for a long time, these authors have written about same-sex relationships in just this sort of very matter-of-fact way. In this book, these 2 are kind of the main couple, even though Subaru's like, oh, he's just joking around. And certainly at this time, it's like, well, wait a minute. It's unclear in this first volume who this person really is, because there's the Seishiro that Subaru knows in the present day, but then he remembers when he was younger, and he met this person who looked a lot like his present-day friend. And so there's this weird sort of question by the end of the first volume. Wait a minute, who is this person really, and how much do I know about this person? I understand the past relationship or lack thereof between our families and our shared magical power, but what do I know about this person beyond that? And he says, he loves me, and I'm not sure really what to do with that information. And Hokuto, Subaru's sister, she's very supportive of this. Again, nowadays you would look at this representation and think, okay, that's kind of wild, because this person is a minor still, and this person who's talking to him and flirting with him is an adult, which, yeah. So while this age gap is problematic for modern readers, I mean, this representation was really important at the time, especially for people growing up in the 90s. There just weren't a lot of depictions of queer characters. And in manga like this was the first place some of us saw queer characters living happy, successful lives and not just being the punchline in sitcoms. So books like this by these authors really do occupy an interesting place in the history of manga. So I've read a lot of series by these authors. This one, I don't know, I didn't come to until Like, I'd read many, many other books by them. And I don't know, I enjoy sort of the retro style of the art. Their style has evolved, certainly, over the years, so it looks different now than it did in 1990. But if you're interested, check this out. It is available, I think, not all of the volumes, because they're being republished. They're not all available. Like, the original manga is out there in other forms, but these reissues with the new covers, I think they're coming to Comics Plus, and we're going to get some physical copies for the library too. But yeah, if you're interested, check this out. Next, this is a manga that is also a movie, and this is Wolf Children, Ame and Yuki. And so in this book, you meet a young person named Hana, and her significant other is this young man, and she's very smitten with him. And the two of them, they meet in college, and the two of them both like reading. So they kind of, this is how they begin to get to know each other. But pretty soon, when they start dating, this is how Hana learns that her significant other is in fact a kind of wolf. He's specifically the last descendant of the Japanese wolves thought to have gone extinct 100 years ago. And so most of the time he's human. And when these two find out they're going to have a kid, there's still this anxiety because, I mean, Hana's thinking, she even says in a phone call, if the child I'm going to have looks like a wolf, the doctor will be shocked. And so she ends up having both of her children in their home. Like, luckily she doesn't have any medical complications. Now, we learn in the first section of the book that after both kids have been born, Ame is the younger, he's the boy, Yuki is a girl. She is like toddler age, like they're only about a year apart. One night, it seems like maybe their dad goes out to hunt. Like, Hana, she's sort of thinking this over after the fact, and she knows, okay, well, I've got to do my best to take care of these kids on my own because he is hit by a car. And because he dies in wolf form, nobody realizes that a human or sometimes human person has died. And so as they grow a little bit older, as they're getting old enough to talk, Yuki in particular, she, like, they start to learn, oh, okay, we can do this other thing. I mean, Yuki, she, as a wolf, I mean, she's like a puppy. She's a little kid, but also a puppy, a wolf, and so she's kind of mischievous. And, I mean, for Hana, this is challenging. I mean, she couldn't get advice, obviously. Like, you can't ask, hey, my child, who is a wolf sometimes, keeps chewing on our various wooden things in our house. She can't just say that. So she's kind of trying to, like, study and figure this out on her own. But, I mean, like, at one point, I think Yuki eats some silica gel. And, of course, Hana is very panicked. You don't want your young child eating that stuff. But she's thinking, oh no, where do I go? Because there's, like, a pediatric clinic, but there's also a vet's office in this neighborhood. And she's thinking, which one? Where do I go? But then what she finds out is, oh, okay, well, since she has an appetite, she's going to be fine. It's okay. But there's lots of kind of events like this that make Hana really sort of worried about how she's going to raise her kids. And living in the city, like at one point, Yuki goes after a dog when she's pretty young. And this sort of leads Hana to realize, okay, this isn't working out. Like, eventually she gets, like, they're actually kicked out of their building because of the kids who are, like, Yuki in particular is, like, howling. And the landlord's like, you have a dog here. You're not allowed to have a dog. I've heard your dog. You can't live here. And she's like, we really don't have a dog. And it's like, if you're not going to follow the rules, you need to leave this building. And so it's at this point that Hana decides, okay, years ago, I was looking at this photo with my husband, who is now passed, and I'm thinking, it's time for us to move to where he lived when he was younger. And sure enough, she tells the kids, you know, we're going to move to the mountains. And sure enough, once they get to this more rural community, it helps. And they are able to get this huge old house kind of in the middle of nowhere. And that's great, obviously. For Hana's situation, it's like, yes, I want to be able to let my kids run free and they can be themselves, whether that's in human form or wolf form, and there's not going to be a lot of prying eyes around to see them transform or see the fact that, okay, maybe they like to bark more than the average child. Like, it's okay. And so as the book goes on, I mean, Hana is very clear about her desire to just, okay, you know, I'm going to raise my kids up as best I can. Wasn't intending to do this on my own, but moving to the country means, okay, she now has a place to like have a garden, and a neighbor sort of tells her, well, okay, this is how you do these things. And I mean, some of them are more cheerful than others. There's like an old man who's kind of gruff, but her neighbors, I mean, they're quick to help and kind of explain like, hey, you got to start with the soil. You can't just plant stuff. It's going to be like a lot of hard work. But I mean, once you have this space and once you're able to kind of get this done, you know, here's some good beginning plants and here's what you should maybe be growing in this space that you have. And so she starts to find this community. And I mean, this is nice for Hana, who's had to do things on her own for so long. And there's even like these young moms, like these other women say, there are hardly any young mothers out here, so we're really glad to have another one in the group. Go ahead and ask us anything. And it's at this point in encountering other kids that Yuki hears about, like nursery school. And so she wants to go. She's always very emphatic about this whole, I want to go to school, I want to go to school. I promise I won't make any mistakes. I won't slip up. I won't let people see that I can transform. It's going to be fine. Whereas for Ame, he's more interested in living in the wild. I mean, he, by the end of this book, has sort of found a teacher, and it's actually a fox. And when he transforms, he can like communicate with this other creature. And the two of them, in sort of traveling in the forest and in the mountains, it helps him to understand like, oh, I can have a life like this. And so yeah, here's the two of them together kind of like in the wild. And for Yuki, this is tricky because she really sees herself as somebody who wants to be part of the human world. Whereas for Ame, it's more like, no, I want to live out here. I want to stay in the countryside. I want to be a wolf most of the time, if not all of the time, like Dad did before he met Mom. So it's a really beautiful like fantasy story about this family and the kids growing up and Hana like doing her best to make this work. And yeah, if you enjoy manga, I haven't seen the movie version of this yet, but I've liked the book a lot and the art's really beautiful. And again, I didn't say it at the start, but both of these books are manga and they are available through Comics Plus. So if you're interested, you can borrow these and give them a try. And thank you for watching. I will see you again next week.